Welcome with an excursion that unfurls inside the pages of this book. An excursion of self-revelation, change, and strengthening. The human mind has a noteworthy capacity known as brain adaptability, which permits it to rework itself in light of new encounters, considerations, and conditions. This implies that you hold the unimaginable ability to reshape your life through purposeful individual exertion and care. In Work on Yourself, the key to effectively improve and foster yourself, we dive into the functional ways you can tackle this ability to encourage positive change in your life. The interaction starts with self-reflection, a basic step that includes searching internally to grasp your actual longings, assets, shortcomings, and the ongoing examples that characterize your day-to-day existence. By acquiring a more profound comprehension of yourself, you set up for significant change. Objective setting is the following vital stage. Setting clear, reachable objectives gives a guide to your self-awareness venture. These objectives go about as benchmarks for progress and assist with keeping up with your concentration, guiding your activities and choices toward wanted results. Whether you plan to upgrade your profession, further develop connections, or foster better propensities, every objective you set is a venturing stone towards more noteworthy self-satisfaction. The force of key self-improvement can't be undervalued. This book furnishes you with an organized way to deal with fostering your abilities, extending your insight, and changing your outlook. Every section expands on the past one, making a thorough aid that covers fundamental perspectives, for example, developing capacity to understand individuals on a deeper level, refining relational abilities, and building flexibility against difficulty. Besides, you will figure out how to apply these abilities in regular situations to guarantee non-stop improvement and enduring change. With each page, you will find new procedures and experiences that will assist you with taking advantage of your maximum capacity and effectively shape your future. This presentation sets the establishment for a groundbreaking interaction that goes past shallow changes, contacting the actual center of your being. Work on Yourself isn't simply a book, it's a pathway to a more satisfied and intentional life. Prepare yourself for an engaging excursion that starts the second you turn the primary page. For more data about the digital book rendition of this sound, check the video portrayal or visit audiobooksoffice.com. We notice that 67% of you who pay attention to our video are not yet bought into the channel. Kindly assist with supporting the channel by raising a ruckus around town button and enjoying the video. Gratitude for rousing us to make more satisfied for you. Section 1. Propelling individual improvement. Bits of knowledge. As you begin this excursion of personal development, you'll probably experience minutes where you feel stuck, uncertain of how to get through the boundaries keeping you down. It's generally expected to have this impression and a sign you're propelling yourself beyond your usual range of familiarity. Self-improvement frequently starts at the place of distress, where your ongoing abilities are tested and your cutoff points are tried. This is where genuine improvement happens. To propel your own improvement experiences, center around recognizing the regions that need consideration. Begin by leading an exhaustive self-evaluation to pinpoint precisely where you feel limited or lacking. Ask yourself examining inquiries like, what's keeping me down? Or on the other hand, what abilities do I have to procure to arrive at my objectives? This sort of thoughtfulness helps in figuring out your assets and shortcomings and structures the establishment for defining reasonable objectives. Whenever you've distinguished these regions, embrace an essential way to deal with learning and improvement. Separate enormous objectives into more modest, reasonable errands that can be handled on a day-to-day or week-by-week premise. This technique lessens overpower and causes the cycle to appear to be more reachable. For instance, assuming you seek to work on your public talking abilities, you could begin by talking in more modest, casual gatherings prior to tending to bigger crowds. Besides, embracing an outlook of non-stop learning and versatility is urgent. The universe standard underlines that similarly as the universe is in a consistent condition of development, so ought to be our abilities and information. Remain refreshed with new instruments and procedures that can move you forward. Participate in standard instructional courses, read broadly, and maybe, in particular, be available to criticism. This receptiveness will permit you to ceaselessly refine your methodology. Make sure to praise your victories en route, regardless of how little. These triumphs, whether it's dominating another expertise or conquering an individual trepidation, act as achievements that encourage you, yet additionally exhibit unmistakable advancement towards your bigger objectives. In rundown, self-awareness is an excursion that requires tolerance, determination, and a proactive demeanor. By making little strides towards personal growth, you'll acquire important experiences that will assist you with conquering hindrances and arrive at your maximum capacity. Remain focused on your turn of events and recollect that each forward-moving step, regardless of how little, is a stage towards accomplishing your definitive objectives. Section 2. Expanding mindfulness for individual dominance. As you dig further into your self-awareness venture, understanding the center of your own mind becomes fundamental. This contemplative way supports uncovering the multifaceted layers of your viewpoints, feelings, and ways of behaving which are pivotal in making progress toward individual dominance. Mindfulness is the bedrock whereupon you can fabricate a more grounded, stronger self. It empowers you to see the examples and propensities that may be hindering your development, permitting you to settle on additional educated choices that are in accordance with your more profound qualities and goals. Setting out on this excursion expects you to make a stride back and equitably notice your psychological and profound cycles. Start by looking at the circumstances that trigger pessimistic feelings or ineffective ways of behaving. Questions like, what sets off my uneasiness? Or then again, for what reason do I dawdle? Are essential. These inquiries assist you with pinpointing explicit conditions and responses, giving a more clear image of your personal conduct standards and their triggers. To improve your mindfulness, keep a day-to-day diary of your viewpoints and feelings. This training can act as a mirror mirroring your inward world and making it simpler to see repeating themes. For instance, you could find that particular sorts of assignments or assumptions from others reliably lead to pressure or evasion. Perceiving these triggers is the most vital phase in overseeing them all the more really. Applying the universe standard, embrace the possibility that similarly as the universe is persistently extending and developing, so too should how you might interpret yourself. This powerful way to deal with mindfulness urges you to stay open to new experiences about your character and ways of behaving, adjusting and developing with each new disclosure. It's a course of consistent learning and change, reflecting the unending breadth of the universe. Additionally, incorporate care rehearses into your everyday daily schedule. Procedures, for example, reflection or careful breathing can extraordinarily improve your second-to-second mindfulness, assisting you with turning out to be more receptive to your inward states. These practices work on your concentration and profound guideline as well as develop your association with the current second, which is indispensable for individual dominance. By focusing on an act of ordinary self-reflection and care, you enable yourself to roll out conscious improvements. This continuous course of self-disclosure and variation prepares for groundbreaking development, empowering you to defeat limits and step into your maximum capacity. Through expanded mindfulness, you comprehend yourself better as well as made way for significant and practical self-improvement. Section 3. Laying out reachable goals. With a newly discovered comprehension of your inward functions, you are presently well equipped to set yearnings that are moving as well as really feasible. This clearness about your assets, shortcomings, values, and interests permits you to make objectives that are profoundly lined up with what your identity is and what you wish to turn into. The most common way of defining such objectives isn't just about trying the impossible, yet additionally about guaranteeing those stars are inside your scope. At the point when you set goals, explicitness is critical. Obscure objectives are challenging to accomplish on the grounds that they miss the mark on clear objective. All things considered, characterize your yearnings with accuracy. For example, as opposed to planning to be better, put forth an objective to walk 1,000 stages every day or eat 3 servings of vegetables day to day. This explicitness makes your desires more substantial and quantifiable, which is essential for keeping tabs on your development and keeping up with your inspiration. Moreover, guarantee that your objectives are sensible. While it's critical to challenge yourself, defining objectives that are too grandiose may prompt dissatisfaction and demoralization. Survey your abilities to ongoing and assets while putting forth objectives to guarantee they are achievable. For instance, on the off chance that you try to upgrade your expert abilities, consider whether you have the opportunity and means to go through preparing or schooling expected to accomplish this objective. Separating bigger objectives into more modest, reasonable assignments is another compelling technique. This approach makes the cycle less overwhelming as well as gives incessant open doors to festivity, which can essentially make you feel better. Every little triumph is a bit nearer to your bigger goal and a second worth perceiving. Integrate the universe standard by recognizing that your excursion towards these desires is a powerful interaction. Similarly, as the universe is in a condition of steady development and change, your objectives and the ways to accomplishing them may likewise advance. Be available to adjusting your yearnings as you acquire experiences about yourself and your conditions. This adaptability permits you to remain lined up with your generally credible self and to turn while fundamental, improving your capacity to succeed. By laying out unambiguous, quantifiable, and sensible goals and separating them into feasible undertakings, you make an organized way forward. This procedure engages you to make unequivocal strides towards living up to your true capacity, outfitted with the certainty that each step is a determined and reachable move towards turning into your best self. Keep in mind, the excursion of self-awareness is persistent, and every objective accomplished is a structure block for future achievement. Part 4. Organizing an essential self-improvement guide. Having distinguished your feasible desires, the following significant step is to build an essential self-awareness guide. This guide will act as your outline, specifying the particular advances should have really tried to understand your self-awareness targets. It's an organized methodology that frames what you really want to do as well as when and how you can make it happen, guaranteeing you remain focused and gain predictable headway. Begin by dismantling every one of your goals into more modest, sensible undertakings. This breakdown is indispensable as it changes theoretical objectives into substantial activities. For each errand, obviously characterize what abilities or information you really want to secure. This could include distinguishing applicable courses, tracking down tutors, or getting to books and different assets that will help your learning process. Whenever you have framed the errands and distinguished the essential assets, the subsequent stage is to focus on them. Survey each errand in light of its significance to your general objectives and the direness with which it should be tended to. This prioritization will assist you with allotting your time and assets all the more really, zeroing in on high-influence exercises that drive you nearer to your objectives. It is likewise fundamental to make a timetable. Set explicit cutoff times for each undertaking, taking into account how long you reasonably can devote to every one. It's essential to be aggressive yet reasonable with your timetable to keep up with inspiration without causing burnout. Incorporate cradle periods inside your timetable to oblige any unanticipated postponements or open doors for extra discovering that might emerge. As you execute your guide, constantly keep tabs on your development. This following isn't just about ticking off got done with jobs, yet additionally about considering the educational experience and the results of each activity. Commend your victories. These are achievements that mark your advancement as well as lift your certainty and inspiration. In addition, applying the universe standard, recollect that your self-awareness guide isn't firmly established. Similarly, as the universe is in steady transition, adjusting and growing, your guide ought to likewise be adaptable. Be ready to change your arrangement as you develop and get the hang of, incorporating new experiences and abilities as you progress. This adaptability guarantees that your advancement process stays lined up with your developing goals and capacities. By organizing your self-awareness guide cautiously, you guarantee that each step you take is estimated and intentional. This efficient methodology assists you with keeping on track and propelled, empowering you to explore the way to your self-improvement objectives actually. Part 5. Focusing on ceaseless individual improvement. In the wake of setting a nitty-gritty guide for your self-improvement, the following stage is to connect effectively in persistent individual enhancement. This continuous cycle isn't just about accomplishing put forth objectives, however, about developing a way of life that advances consistent development and learning. Focusing on private enhancement implies committing yourself to a ceaseless excursion of personal growth, where interest, transparency, and a proactive disposition towards learning are at the center of regular exercises. To incorporate constant individual advancement into your life, begin by saving devoted time every day or week for self-schooling successfully. This could include perusing books that challenge your reasoning, signing up for online courses that grow your range of abilities, or going to studios and workshops that offer new viewpoints and systems administration valuable open doors. These exercises ought to be decided deliberately to line up with your drawn-out objectives and interests, guaranteeing that they add to both your own and proficient development. Moreover, it's fundamental to encourage a mentality that embraces difficulties as any open doors for development. Getting out of your usual range of familiarity and investigating new interests can prompt huge individual leap forwards. Whether it's learning another dialect, taking up an imaginative side interest like work of art or composing, or in any event, participating in another game, each new action gives an opportunity to foster various features of yourself. Consolidating normal self-reflection is likewise imperative in focusing on private improvement. Think about your encounters, what you've realized, and how you've applied this information. This training supports advancing as well as assists you with remaining lined up with your basic beliefs and objectives. Self-reflection can be worked with through journaling, contemplation, or conversations with a guide or mentor who can give outside experiences and input. Applying the universe standard to individual improvement includes perceiving that very much like the universe, which is continually extending and advancing, your excursion of self-awareness is additionally unique and steadily evolving. Embrace the possibility that you are never genuinely done learning, and that every day presents another chance to upgrade your insight, abilities, and by and large prosperity. By focusing on private improvement, you guarantee that you stay roused, motivated, and on a make way to turning into your best self. This obligation to deep-rooted learning and advancement will keep you pushing ahead, versatile, and dynamic in all parts of life. Part 6. Taking on an ever-evolving outlook for continuous development. As you extend your obligation to self-improvement, it is significant to develop a dynamic mentality. This mentality is the foundation of a way of thinking that acknowledges and even praises the ceaseless condition of becoming. It underlines that development is a deep-rooted venture, interspersed not by definite objections but rather by persistent improvement. Embracing such an outlook permits you to be more open to new encounters, thoughts, and viewpoints, which are fundamental for individual and expert turn of events. A dynamic mentality centers around the course of development as opposed to only the results. This viewpoint assists you with valuing the little advances required every day towards your bigger objectives. It moves the concentration from transient outcomes to long-haul improvement, empowering a more maintainable and satisfying development direction. Celebrating little wins turns into a piece of this excursion, supporting positive way of behaving and helping inspiration. For example, recognizing the fulfillment of an everyday learning task or the effective use of another expertise can give the support expected to keep up with energy. Moreover, this mentality encourages flexibility, a priceless quality in exploring life's difficulties. With a dynamic mentality, challenges are seen not as deterrents but rather as impetuses for development. This view elevates a better way to deal with disappointment, seeing it as a fundamental component of learning. Every mishap is reevaluated as a venturing stone to more prominent comprehension and capacity, which decreases dread of disappointment and energizes more successive and carefully weighed out course of action taking. Embracing disappointments as learning experiences is similar to the universe guideline, where steady change and advancement are inborn characteristics. Similarly, as the universe persistently grows and changes, a dynamic outlook assists you with adjusting and flourish in a steadily evolving climate. It supports the adaptability to modify ways or techniques because of new data or evolving conditions, guaranteeing that self-awareness is all around as powerful and extensive as the actual universe. By embracing a dynamic outlook, you open your maximum capacity for continuous development. There's no need to focus on taking a stab at flawlessness yet about being superior to you were yesterday, last month, or last year. This mentality upgrades individual fulfillment and viability as well as guarantees that you stay a never-ending student, ever anxious to grow past as far as possible. Embrace this methodology and you will consistently develop, adjusting and prospering all through your own and proficient life. Part 7. Vanquishing inward questions and embracing strength. Having taken on a dynamic mentality, the following basic stage in your self-awareness venture includes handling the inward questions that frequently act as obstructions to progress. These questions, described by contemplations like, "You're not adequate or you'll come up short," can sabotage your advancement and sap your inspiration. Nonetheless, it's fundamental to perceive that such questions are a widespread human encounter and don't mirror your actual capacities or worth. To vanquish these questions, begin by certifying your assets. Ponder your previous triumphs and the snags you've as of now survived. This reflection isn't just about building certainty, it's tied in with establishing yourself in actuality, the truth of your demonstrated flexibility and ability. Every little triumph ought to be commended as it supports your self-conviction and weakens the effect of negative self-talk. Expanding on this establishment, urge yourself to embrace a bolder way to deal with difficulties. Intensity isn't the shortfall of dread, however, the ability to act regardless of it. It includes recognizing your apprehensions while deciding to push ahead. This can be rehearsed in ordinary choices and activities, step by step expanding in scale as your certainty develops. For instance, on the off chance that public talking is a trepidation, fire by shouting out additional in gatherings, then, at that point, progress to giving little discussions, and at last maybe lead a studio or a huge show. Additionally, the universe guideline can be a strong representation here. Similarly, as the universe constantly grows notwithstanding the mayhem inside it, you also can extend your viewpoints and capacities in the midst of inner questions. The universe doesn't recoil away from making new stars and systems. Additionally, you shouldn't recoil away from new open doors and difficulties. Embracing this broad outlook assists with normalizing development and change as necessary pieces of life, making it more straightforward to push past impediments. At long last, recollect that strength is developed through activity. Each step taken despite questions fortifies your psychological determination and reduces the power those questions hold over you. By reliably picking activity over delay, you improve your self-improvement as well as set an example of bold way of behaving that pushes you towards accomplishing your most elevated desires. In aggregate, conquering internal questions requires a blend of self-reflection, festivity of accomplishments, progressive openness to fears, and a comprehension of development as a characteristic, universe-like extension. With every striking step, you reaffirm your capacity to explore and conquer the vulnerabilities of life, preparing for a certain and decisive future. Part 8. Gaining from misfortunes. As any open doors for development, mishaps are a characteristic and unavoidable part of any development cycle. While they may at first appear to be deterring, they are as a matter of fact important open doors for learning and improvement. Embracing misfortunes as a feature of your excursion as opposed to indications of disappointment is vital for creating flexibility and making long-haul progress. When confronted with difficulties, the initial step is to move toward them with an outlook of interest instead of judgment. This includes surveying what is happening completely and posing productive inquiries. What turned out badly? What can be gained from this experience? How could these illustrations be applied to future undertakings? By understanding the elements that prompted the misfortune, you can begin to unwind the particular regions where changes or enhancements are required. For example, in the event that an undertaking at work didn't go according to plan, survey the stages where things began to stray from the normal result. Was it an arranging issue, an absence of assets, or maybe a miscommunication? Recognizing the main driver empowers you to address it straightforwardly. It isn't rehashed to guarantee that a similar slip-up. Applying the universe guideline, consider misfortunes as likened to the inestimable occasions that lead to the production of new stars. Similarly, as the universe develops and advances through such wild occasions, individual and expert mishaps can likewise act as impetuses for new development and improvement. This point of view urges you to see mishaps not as the stopping point but rather as fundamental pieces of the formative interaction that widen your experience and develop your comprehension. Besides, recording these encounters in an intelligent diary can upgrade your learning. Recording what occurred, why it worked out, and what steps you took to explore what is happening solidifies the learning and sets you up for comparative difficulties later on. In conclusion, impart straightforwardly about these mishaps when suitable. Imparting your encounters to friends or guides can furnish you with new bits of knowledge and elective methodologies. This aids in refining your methodology as well as fortifies your encouraging group of people, a fundamental component in exploring future difficulties. Generally, by review mishaps as any open doors for development, you conform to a proactive and strong outlook. This approach encourages individual and expert improvement as well as develops a groundwork of fortitude and versatility, guaranteeing that each challenge you face contributes usefully to your general objectives. Section 9, Framing Gainful Life Propensities. As you change from learning through difficulties to proactive self-awareness, laying out valuable life propensities becomes fundamental. Building these propensities is a conscious cycle that, when done accurately, extraordinarily upgrades your personal satisfaction and speeds up your advancement toward your objectives. Start by pinpointing explicit regions in your day-to-day existence that you feel could profit from new or further developed propensities. Maybe you need to expand your actual work, commit additional opportunity to perusing and learning, or carry out normal times of contemplation for mental clearness. Anything the concentration, the key is to characterize clear, significant advances that can be integrated into your everyday daily practice. Whenever you've recognized these means, center around incorporating them into your life each in turn to keep away from overpower. For example, assuming you want to practice more, begin with short, planned exercises now and again when you're probably going to completely finish, similar to first thing or just after work. To develop a propensity for perusing, you could start by saving 20 minutes before bed to peruse a book as opposed to looking at your telephone. Establishing a climate that upholds your new propensities is urgent. This could mean setting up your exercise garments the prior night, putting a book on your end table, or setting up a peaceful, welcoming corner of your home for reflection. These actual signs go about as updates and inspirations, making it simpler to adhere to your daily schedule. Celebrating little wins en route builds up your responsibility and makes you feel better. Recognize each day that you stick to your new propensity and perceive that every little achievement is a structure block towards making these ways of behaving long-lasting. Consistency, likewise with the universe rule, is key in this cycle. Similarly, as the universe persistently works through reliable regulations and cycles, powerful propensities require a predictable application. Over the long run, these activities become natural, similar as the cadenced examples of nature. Additionally, it's essential to be patient and kind to yourself as propensities get some margin to shape. On the off chance that you miss a day or blunder, it's anything but a disappointment, however, a piece of the excursion. Reset, pull together, and proceed. Consistently you commit once again to your propensities, you support your way to self-improvement and long-haul achievement. By deliberately framing gainful life propensities, you set an establishment that cultivates self-awareness as well as prepares you to deal with future difficulties all the more successfully, guaranteeing that you proceed to develop and work on all through your life. Part 10. Disposing of negative propensities for better prosperity. As your excursion of self-awareness advances, zeroing in on the end of hindering propensities becomes vital. These are the propensities that impede your way to accomplishing your objectives, depleting energy, and decreasing your general prosperity. Perceiving and supplanting these negative propensities with positive ones is a fundamental stage toward understanding your maximum capacity. Start this interaction by directing a careful survey of your everyday exercises and recognizing any ways of behaving that are counterproductive or unsafe. Normal negative propensities incorporate hesitation, exorbitant utilization of virtual entertainment, unfortunate eating, and dismissing actual work. Each of these can essentially block your advancement by draining your energy, diverting your concentration, and subverting your well-being. For instance, consider the propensity for tarrying, which many view as harmless yet can prompt critical pressure and decreased efficiency. John, a visual fashioner, understood that his propensity to defer undertakings as late as possible was influencing his work quality and his psychological well-being. By recognizing this propensity, he ventured out toward change. He started by separating his ventures into more modest errands and setting a timetable to finish each section a long time on schedule. This superior his work quality as well as decreased his feelings of anxiety fundamentally. Likewise, over-the-top web-based entertainment use is a typical time killer that can cheapen more significant exercises and collaborations. Sarah, a college understudy, carved out that her exorbitant opportunity via web-based entertainment was influencing her examinations and her rest. She chose to restrict her online entertainment use to 30 minutes out of each day and supplanted the time spent looking at takes care of with perusing and contemplation. This superior her scholarly presentation as well as improved her general prosperity. Impeding propensity, effectively work on supplanting it with a useful one. This substitution is basic since it makes up for the shortfall left by the old propensity, diminishing the compulsion to return. Lay out clear, reachable objectives for your new propensities and screen your advancement consistently. Ending persistent vices is without a doubt testing and requires steady exertion and tolerance. Commend every little triumph en route as these victories are critical achievements in your excursion of personal development. After some time, these new, positive ways of behaving will turn out to be natural, enormously upgrading your prosperity and carrying you nearer to your definitive objectives. Keep in mind, the ability to address your propensities and likewise your life, exists in you. By disposing of negative propensities and embracing better ones, you make ready for a more joyful, better and really satisfying life. Section 11, Upgrading Versatility and Adaptability in Affliction. Difficulty is an unavoidable piece of life, introducing difficulties that can feel overpowering on occasion. In any case, creating strength and adaptability can altogether enable you to deal with these difficulties actually and arise more grounded. Versatility is your capacity to return from difficulties, while adaptability is your ability to adjust to evolving conditions. Together, they structure a unique duel that can take you through difficult stretches with elegance and strength. To upgrade these characteristics, begin by recognizing and tolerating your feelings. It's normal to feel frightened, disappointed or unsure when confronted with affliction. Perceiving these sentiments without judgment permits you to productively address them. For example, when Emma lost her employment suddenly, she at first felt a flood of frenzy and weakness. Rather than capitulating to these sentiments, she recognized them and afterward centered around concocting an arrangement, which included refreshing her resume, contacting her organization and investigating potential open doors in fields she was enthusiastic about. Then, separate the circumstance into more modest, sensible parts. This methodology diminishes the staggering idea of the issue and makes it simpler to handle. For instance, when confronted with a significant medical problem, Michael chose to zero in first on understanding his finding, then on looking for second feelings, lastly on investigating therapy choices. By separating the issue into steps, he felt more in charge and less restless. Rehearsing self-sympathy is additionally essential. Advise yourself that it's okay to not have every one of the responses and to commit errors. Self-sympathy includes treating yourself with the very consideration and understanding that you would offer a companion experiencing the same thing. This approach eases pressure, yet in addition cultivates a sustaining climate where you can flourish regardless of the difficulties. Moreover, gain from each insight. Each difficulty or error is a learning a potential open door. For instance, in the event that an undertaking fizzles, break down what turned out badly and how you can forestall comparable issues from now on. This growing experience is fundamental for building versatility. With time and practice, these procedures will upgrade your capacity to endure misfortune. Very much like a tree that curves in a tempest yet doesn't break, you will find yourself more equipped for exploring life's tempests. You won't just endure these difficulties yet in addition develop from them, creating further strength and more prominent versatility. This versatility and adaptability will prepare you to confront future misfortunes with certainty and arise more grounded and smarter each time. Section 12. Encouraging an organization of help building strength and adaptability is significant, however similarly significant is the capacity to encircle yourself with a steady organization. This organization can turn into a strong wellspring of inspiration, responsibility, and motivation, which are all crucial for long-haul self-awareness. You don't need to explore the intricacies of personal growth alone. Having areas of strength for a framework can make the excursion smoother and more pleasant. Begin by recognizing individuals in your day-to-day existence who really care about your prosperity and development. Contemplate relatives, companions, partners, or coaches who have shown an eagerness to help you before. These people ought to be individuals who empower you emphatically, offer helpful input, and commend your victories. For instance, consider Anna, who shaped a review bunch with her colleagues to help each other plan for tests. This gathering gave a construction that assisted every part with keeping focused, prompting further developed execution for the whole gathering. Notwithstanding private associates, extending your encouraging group of people can likewise mean joining on the web networks that share your inclinations. These stages can give support from peers who are on comparable ways, offering bits of knowledge and guidance that probably won't be accessible in your nearby circle. For example, David joined a web-based gathering for yearning journalists, where he could present his drafts for criticism and take part recorded as a hard copy difficulties that leveled up his abilities. Partaking in studios or workshops is one more extraordinary method for meeting similar people while additionally acquiring new abilities. These occasions can interface you with potential coaches who have the mastery and the experience to direct you through your own and proficient turn of events. For instance, Sarah went to a nearby business venture studio where she met a carefully prepared entrepreneur whose direction was significant in aiding her go into business. Keep in mind, connecting for help doesn't make you a weight, it makes you clever. The vast majority are complimented to be requested assistance and are surprisingly able to help. Tell your organization explicitly the way that they can uphold you, whether it's tuning in, offering exhortation, or giving reasonable assistance. By effectively fabricating and sustaining an organization of help, you guarantee that you have the assets to beat difficulties and keep pushing towards your objectives. This organization fortifies your own flexibility, yet in addition enhances your excursion, making your triumph seriously fulfilling and your misfortunes more reasonable. Part 13. Coordinating care and reflection into daily existence in the excursion of self-improvement, developing internal strength through care and contemplation is priceless. These practices upgrade your capacity to be available, yet in addition fundamentally calm your brain, encouraging a condition of quiet and lucidity that pervades all parts of life. Incorporating care and contemplation into your everyday schedule can change unremarkable exercises into amazing open doors for self-disclosure and profound guideline. Start with a basic, reasonable responsibility. Commit 5 minutes every day to care contemplation. Pick a tranquil place where you can sit undisturbed. Sit serenely, shut your eyes, and spotlight on the cadence of your breath. This essential practice assists focus your psyche, training you to oversee interruptions as they with arising. At the point when contemplations unavoidably float, as they will, delicately guide your concentration back to your relaxing. This interaction isn't just about quietness, however about getting back to tranquility regardless of the commotion. As you become more used to this training, continuously increment the span to 10 to 15 minutes of the day. The consistency will extend the feeling of quietness and concentration in your regular routine. For instance, Michael began his care process with short meetings and gradually moved toward longer periods. Over the long haul, he saw a huge decline in his everyday feelings of anxiety and an improvement in his focus at work. Notwithstanding committed contemplation time, take a stab at integrating care into regular exercises. For example, while eating, center around the surfaces and kinds of your food. While strolling, focus on the vibe of your feet contacting the ground and the sounds around you. This act of dynamic care makes the everyday minutes unique and keeps you grounded in the present. Lucy, a visual creator, coordinated care into her day-to-day short breather. She utilized this opportunity to appreciate her beverage completely, zeroing in on the glow of the cup in her grasp and the fragrance of the espresso. This little custom turned into an esteemed piece of her day, a realignment to her faculties and a break from the computerized screens. Expanding mindfulness through these practices empowers better independent direction and more insightful reactions to day-to-day challenges. It likewise develops a significant feeling of harmony that can assist you with exploring life's high points and low points all the more really. By making care and reflection an ordinary piece of your life, you improve your psychological and close-to-home well-being, yet in addition your general prosperity. Section 14, Honing the capacity to appreciate individuals on a deeper level for better connections. As you upgrade your care and contemplation rehearses, you will normally expand your capacity to understand people on a deeper level, which is critical for developing better and more significant connections. The ability to appreciate people on a deeper level includes understanding and dealing with your feelings and the feelings of others. By creating EI, you become more sensitive to the unpretentious close-to-home prompts in individuals' nonverbal communication, manner of speaking, and articulations, which can fundamentally further develop how you connect with and associate with others. Perhaps the earliest move toward honing your capacity to appreciate individuals on a deeper level is to rehearse undivided attention. This implies not simply hearing the words someone else is saying, yet additionally focusing on the basic feelings and nonverbal signs. For example, Sarah saw that at whatever point she talked about end-of-the-week designs, her accomplice would become removed. By focusing and considering her accomplice's nonverbal signals, she understood that her accomplice felt overpowered by a stuffed timetable. Perceiving this permitted her to address her accomplice's requirement for calm free time, which reinforced their relationship. Besides, the capacity to appreciate people on a profound level empowers you to really deal with clashes more. It furnishes you with the abilities to move toward conflicts with sympathy and an unmistakable comprehension of all points of view included. For instance, when Tom confronted a contention at work, rather than responding protectively, he carved out opportunity to grasp the worries of his partners. This approach settled the pressure as well as constructed common regard and further developed cooperation in his group. Defining limits is one more essential part of the ability to appreciate people on a profound level. By plainly conveying your requirements and cutoff points, you forestall false impressions and disdain, which cultivates better associations. Emma, for instance, felt depleted by her excessively exhausting companion. By defining and conveying clear limits in regards to her accessibility, Emma safeguarded her energy and kept a better kinship. As you proceed to rehearse and apply the standards of the capacity to understand anyone on a profound level, you'll find that your connections become more steady and satisfying. You will be better furnished to relate to other people, oversee clashes nimbly, and express your sentiments such that encourages understanding and regard. This continuous improvement in capacity to understand people on a profound level upgrades individual connections as well as lifts proficient collaborations, prompting a seriously fulfilling and associated life. Expanding upon the groundwork of the ability to appreciate anyone on a deeper level, refining your relational abilities is essential for fruitful connections in both your own and proficient life. Successful correspondence is about something beyond trading data. It's tied in with figuring out the inclination and goals behind the data. As you improve your capacity to convey your contemplations and thoughts plainly, you additionally become more skilled at building solid connections. Begin by leveling up your undivided attention abilities. This includes something other than hearing words. It requires focusing on the speaker's nonverbal communication, manner of speaking, and looks. Undivided attention likewise incorporates posing unassuming inquiries to dive further into the conversation and summarizing what the speaker has said to guarantee understanding. For example, during a gathering at work, Sarah saw her partner Tom appeared to be disappointed. By posing explaining inquiries and mirroring his sentiments back to him, she comprehended that Tom felt his thoughts were not being thought of, which permitted her to address his interests straightforwardly and successfully. Your nonverbal correspondence is similarly significant. Your looks, signals, and stance can all pass on messages more capably than words. For instance, while talking about end-of-the-week plans, Sarah understood that her stopped stance and absence of eye-to-eye connection caused her accomplice to feel immaterial. By being aware of her nonverbal communication and showing more receptiveness and commitment, she had the option to cause her accomplice to feel esteemed and heard. Articulating your contemplations plainly and briefly is one more key part of successful correspondence. Try not to utilize language or excessively complex terms, particularly while speaking with somebody beyond your field. For instance, when Sarah cleared up a specialized issue at work for a non-specialized partner, she made a point to utilize straightforward language and relationships that made the data open. Ultimately, flexibility in correspondence is imperative. Various circumstances and crowds might require various styles and approaches. For example, the manner in which Sarah speaks with her associates is unique in relation to how she speaks with her young nieces and nephews. Having the option to switch correspondence styles depending on the situation is an expertise that improves cooperations across different settings. By persistently refining these parts of correspondence, Sarah turned into a more compelling and sure communicator. This aided her in her expert life, yet additionally reinforced her own connections, demonstrating that great relational abilities are essential to progress and grasping in all everyday issues. Part 16. Empowering valuable criticism. Societies in any climate, whether expert or individual, cultivating a culture that energizes productive criticism is imperative for development and improvement. This culture works with transparent correspondence, yet in addition assists in working with trusting, reinforcing connections, and improving by and large efficiency. At the point when individuals have a real sense of security to offer their viewpoints and give criticism, it opens up potential open doors for learning and improvement. To make and empower a helpful input culture, it's fundamental for show others how it's done. Exhibit how to give and get input actually and charitably. Begin by consistently requesting input on your own work or conduct. For example, after an undertaking show, Sarah could ask her partners, "How would you figure I did and what might I at some point enhance for some time later?" This shows her group that she esteems their perspectives and is focused on personal growth, establishing a vibe that criticism is gladly received and regarded. Answering input properly is similarly all around as significant as requesting it. At the point when Sarah gets criticism, she listens mindfully without intruding, thanks the individual for their feedback, and considers how she can carry out their ideas. This approach assists her with improving, yet additionally supports a positive input climate. At the point when analysis is met with protectiveness, it can deter others from making some noise from now on, smothering development in open correspondence. Urge others to partake in this criticism circle. Set out customary open doors for input, like finish-of-week gatherings or survey meetings, and make these meetings a place of refuge for legit articulation. Recognize and remunerate the people who give smart and valuable criticism. For instance, Sarah could praise a colleague during a gathering for their smart remarks. It is valued and perceived to build up that helpful information. Also, it's pivotal to prepare everybody on the most proficient method to give successful criticism. This implies zeroing in on unambiguous ways of behaving or activities, as opposed to individual credits, and recommending noteworthy ways of moving along. For example, rather than saying, "You didn't lead the group well," a more productive methodology would be, in ongoing gatherings, it very well may be useful to frame the plan obviously toward the starting to guarantee everybody is adjusted. By sustaining a criticism-rich culture, Sarah and her group or group of friends can persistently gain from one another and make progress in their own and proficient turn of events. This culture not just distinguishes and addresses issues before they raise, yet in addition adds to a more connected with and serious gathering, at last driving towards aggregate and individual achievement. Part 17. Keeping spurred and liable for your activities. Taking responsibility for activities is an extraordinary step that encourages both individual and expert development. This feeling of obligation is engaging. It cements the comprehension that your decisions straightforwardly influence your life's direction, inspiring you to effectively seek after certain changes. At the point when you genuinely own your activities, you are more headed to settle on choices that line up with your objectives and yearnings. To install this outlook, begin by setting clear, distinct objectives. For example, Sarah lays out an objective to upgrade her initiative abilities. She breaks this expansive goal into more modest, more sensible errands, for example, going to an initiative studio, perusing one book each month on administration, and looking for criticism from her companions on her administration style. This breakdown makes the objective more substantial, yet in addition gives her particular moves toward follow, making the cycle not so much overwhelming but rather more reachable. Praising your triumphs assumes an urgent part in keeping up with inspiration. Each little accomplishment is a structure block towards your bigger objectives. For instance, after effectively driving an undertaking, Sarah finds opportunity to commend this success with her group. This energizes her, yet in addition supports her administration capacities according to her group and herself. Similarly significant is gaining from mishaps. At the point when an arranged show doesn't go as well true to form, Sarah investigates what turned out badly. She understands she might have connected with her crowd better by posing more inquiries and interfacing all the more progressively. Recognizing this readies her for future introductions, yet additionally features the immediate results of her preliminary decisions. Keeping up with energy requires ordinary reflection on your advancement toward your objectives. Sarah occasionally surveys her advancement in administration, evaluating what has worked and what hasn't. This continuous assessment keeps her engaged and lined up with her targets, guaranteeing she stays responsible for her proceeded with development. Eventually, by getting a sense of ownership with your activities, you develop a proactive way to deal with life. This approach expands your inspiration, yet additionally imparts a feeling of satisfaction as you effectively partake in chiseling your future. Sarah's process delineates that with proprietorship comes a more profound obligation to one's private and expert turn of events, prompting more significant and effective results. After steadily taking responsibility for activities and guiding your life toward your objectives, it's vital to stop and perceive the headway you've made. Praising your accomplishments, regardless of how little, is a principal part of supporting inspiration and building a positive mentality towards constant development. One viable method for recognizing progress is by keeping a triumph diary. For instance, Emily began recording her day-to-day accomplishments, regardless of how minor they appeared. Every so often it was pretty much as straightforward as finishing an exercise or completing a book part. After some time she could glance back at her diary and see an example of reliable advancement, which was unimaginably engaging. This visual portrayal of her accomplishments assisted Emily with remaining spurred, particularly on days when progress felt sluggish. Celebrating little wins assumes a mental part by setting off the arrival of dopamine, a synapse that causes you to feel better and urges you to keep participating in the ways of behaving that prompted those victories. For example, after effectively arranging a key agreement, Tom indulged himself with a most loved feast. This festival supported his feeling of achievement and helped his certainty for future talks. Imparting your victories to others is likewise valuable. Sharing not just permits you to celebrate with the people who support you, yet in addition fortifies your social associations and gives an outside affirmation of your advancement. At the point when Lisa accomplished her objective of running her most memorable long-distance race, she shared her prosperity on her virtual entertainment. The positive criticism she got given extra inspiration and acknowledgement of her persistent effort. Also, normal reflection on your advancement assists you with valuing the excursion and comprehend that every little step adds to bigger objectives. Sarah, for example, set quarterly audit meetings for herself to survey her expert and self-awareness. These meetings permitted her to change her systems and set new, additional difficult objectives in light of her achievements. By effectively perceiving and praising each forward-moving step, regardless of how little, you support your obligation to self-awareness. This training keeps your spirits high, gives non-stop inspiration, and advises you that you are equipped for accomplishing extraordinary things. Every festival isn't just about the actual accomplishment, yet about making way for the following test and drawing one stage nearer to understanding your maximum capacity. As you stand at the intersection of personal growth, recall that the excursion is a long-distance race, not a run. You're the draftsman of your self-awareness, and each block you lay is an impression of your strength. Praise every little success, for they're the venturing stones to a magnum opus of discipline. By dealing with yourself, you're not simply constructing a superior you, you're making an existence of direction and satisfaction. Gratitude for paying attention to or perusing